Sort of put it in and didn't think anything of it. Certainly wasn't expecting it to get a gold medal. And Flex and I are actually down in Tasmania for a mate's birthday and went to the awards down in Hobart. And we're sort of just sitting there, and then OJ from HBA come up to us and said, "Oh, do you guys mind coming up?" I'm like, "What?" Because that's where there was another brewery who'd won something from Tasmania. So they were up. They turned all the lights on. We're like, oh. So it was just because if you got a gold medal, they read you out. And we're sort of like, "Oh, awesome, we've won a gold medal." And we're like, "Oh, maybe it's for the stout." Because it's in the stout category. And then it comes up with the Neo-Mexicanus. So, oh, wow.
You'd even forgot that you entered it.
Yeah, I'm like, oh, I forgot all about that.
Hi guys, and welcome to another episode of A Beer with the Brewer. Matty, how are we today?
Super duper.
You're looking fresh.
Thank you. Feeling fresh.
White shirt and everything.
Wore my best white shirt today.
And you got your name tag printed on it as well?
I do. I'm actually, just so you won't forget me, mate.
Exactly.
I'm actually in the market for a new polo, if you know anyone.
Maybe. Might have to hit some milestones for polos.
Milestones?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
I haven't worked out then. worked them out yet,
Okay.
but you'll be the first to know.
Thank you.
And Jay, how are we today, mate?
Good, very good.
That's the way. Today we have brought back out a bit strategically for some awards and things like that as well, and also the time of year. But our Neo-Mexicanus, our Black IPA, the collaboration that we did with Big Shed down in South Australia.
Yep.
And this beer has, I don't know, it's kind of had a tiny little bit of a fault following. What the fault following? Cult following. I need a beer.
Yeah, that's perfect. You can play out those cobwebs.
Because we did do it in a bit of a limited release the first time, everyone absolutely loved it and couldn't get enough of it. So we've decided this is the right time to bring it back out. And it has been kind of working its little heart away over the last 12 months or so.
It certainly has.
It's picked up some fantastic awards and things like that, but we will speak about them. But the best way to introduce this is just to crack it open and drink it.
This is fresh out of tank too, isn't it? It's only been around for a couple of weeks.
Yeah, we canned it the week before last.
This is probably, like, last time, if you watched the podcast, this is an absolute banger of beer. I absolutely love this style, and I love how Matty's brewed this. It tastes fantastic, and it gives me everything that I want in a beer.
Cheers.
So, cheers.
Cheers, boys. It's very porter stouty for a black IPA, isn't it, Matty?
It is. We actually had Pete up, who is now ex-Big Shed during the week. That's who we brewed the beer with at the time, a year ago. He was here during the week doing a brewery tour with a couple of new mates that he's starting a new brewery with. But anyway, he tried this new one on tap. He was like, whoa, that is nice.
Yeah.
And the boys were commenting on how for a dark beer, it's got all obviously the characteristics being black, all that sort of thing, but it doesn't have that sort of roast astringency that a lot of dark beers, stouts and porters have.
You don't pick up that also like that acidity as well.
No, that's right. So in brewing this one, it's only got 4 malts in it. So it's brewed with the base malt, a normal American ale we use. It has got roasted oats. That gives it a nice sort of smooth, creamy, and a little bit of a... It's got a lot of Big O, which is malted oats.
Oh, yeah.
And then it's basically roast wheat. So wheat doesn't have a husk like barley, so they roast it. And the husk is where you get the astringency, similar to coffee. So when you roast that, that's where you get the sort of astringent, bitter, roasty sort of flavours that you associate with stouts and that sort of thing. But it is it doesn't have a husk. It's not dehusked. You can buy barley that has been dehusked that sort of does a similar thing. They work really well on these style of beers because you get all those nice characters without the astringency and burntness, which we don't really want in an IPA.
No.
So it's, sort of balancing that. So it's got the really nice creamy body from all the oats in it. It's got like 25-30% oats, almost similar levels to hazy IPAs. So when we were first putting the recipe together, we spoke about building the body of the beer by using some oats and then help carry all the hops. So I think in terms of the malt profile, that's worked out pretty well because you do get that nice, smooth, creamy flavour.
I think like you guys don't get to see this, but through the actual kind of fermentation process and everything like that, this beer had to sit a little bit longer in the bright tank for those extra kind of haziness proteins kind of to come out of it as well, wasn't it?
Yeah, exactly. So if you look at your glass, it's not crystal clear.
Yeah.
There is some of that haze that you get in a hazy IPA.
Yeah.
But yeah, it certainly helps with that smoothness.
Yep.
And then obviously the Neo-Mexicanus, when we're throwing around a few ideas, we sort of come up with the base beer style. We're talking about Neo-Mexicanus hops. So there's a few varieties now that are out of America. They first found them wildly growing and got to the point where they cultivated them and sort of started using them in brewing. So Zappa is one of them. There's another one called Medusa, which we actually couldn't get our hands on in Australia.
Yeah, okay.
And then there's a couple that have gone through the HBC, which is the breeding program in America, through their breeding program. So they've picked up the wild cultivar and then crossed it with whatever else they've crossed it with to actually properly go through the breeding program and develop the hops. So Sabro, which is a pretty new American one, it's only been around 3 or 4 seasons. And then Taurus is the other hop in this. So it's half Neo-Mex and then half whatever they've crossed it with. But it does have that Neo-Mexicanus origin. So that gives that sort of interesting, unique flavours. So
From when they decide to take a wild hop and then introduce it into that breeding program to when it's actually commercially available, that's not a short turnaround.
that can take 10, 15 years.
Yeah. So this is a long time in the making to get those sorts of hops out.
Yeah. And they've only really become commercially available in sort of the last 4 or 5 years. Zappa is pretty new as a fully wild Neo-Mex.
I think we did a single hop of that probably, two and a bit years ago?
So Zappa has some of the most interesting,
the purple.
almost weird descriptors I've seen of a hop. So yeah, it's described as
purple.
It's sort of spicy, a little bit of lolly, and then purple. So I've never seen purple used as a flavour descriptor.
And hence the capture of on the
I think that's what Matt Bagotis, our designer, when you started describing it to him, he was like, purple, that's a strange way to describe a flavour. And so that's brought that synesthesia, I think it's how you pronounce it, around the can design, visualising flavour in colour, which is really unique. You see all the different colours that come through.
Yeah.
But yeah, when we did the single hop Zappa beer, throwing the hops into the whirlpool, I've never smelled hops sort of smell like that.
Yeah.
It is trying to think what it reminded me of, and it was almost like flavoured tobacco, because that's one of the descriptors as well.
Shishas.
Yeah, like a shisha, like someone smoking a grape shisha.
Yeah.
Or not quite that dank, but it was more sort of sweet.
Yeah.
And then lolly, So I think that's where the purple, like those grape sort of Zappos, stuff like that, like a purple lolly. And then dry hopping it had all these sort of, a lot of spice coming through, and then a lot different flavours.
Yep.
So you can see, well, obviously HBC, who do a lot of the breeding in America, have picked that up, found some of those unique flavours, and then bred it with the other hops to get the beautiful flavours.
Yeah, nice.
Sabro is becoming increasingly popular in the beer world.
Is that something you do a single hop beer out of?
Sabro?
Yeah,
we possibly could, We haven't done that yet. We've used it in this and a couple of other dark beers.
It does work well in the dark beers, though.
If you use a lot of it, it can throw coconut, which some people don't like it.
Yeah, right.
That would be an interesting one to use, for sure.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, so this new can design has got a few little additions in the top left. Jay, do you want to run through those for us in relation to why we put it on there and everything?
It's pretty amazing, actually. I mean, this beer has picked up it's 2 champion trophies. It's kind of like the 2 champions I'm sitting next to right now. Most of our beers pick up awards when they get entered. We have a pretty good strike rate when we put them into the different awards in the industry. 2 of the big ones that we love to enter our beers into is the Indies, which is an Independent Brewers Association run Indies Award. And same with the Royal Queensland Food and Wine Show. We've been there consistently for 4 years or so and picked up some really great stuff. But when you get a whole bunch of medals, if you're lucky enough, you can actually champion and get the champion for the category. And this beer, on its first brew, its maiden, last year picked up not one but two of those champion awards, which is fantastic for the category. Maddie, and do you want to tell us a bit about the category that it's in?
Yeah, when I was entering the awards into the Indies, you read through the style guidelines, and I go through. I normally put all the sort of core regular beers in to their appropriate styles, and then when you do the specialties, you obviously don't brew the beer to suit a style guideline, particularly with a lot of the limiteds. But I was reading through them, and this one I saw American Stout, and I wasn't actually going to enter it at all, and I'm like, that's actually perfect for that beer. So popped it into that, and then sort of didn't think much of it. At the time, it was probably 4 or 5 months in a can, and I'm sure anyone that has watched this podcast has seen us talk about the canning.
Yes.
That was still relatively young in the canning machine's life cycle, so some of the quality out of the canning was a little bit variable, but this just held up beautifully, and it actually got better as it sort of aged.
Yeah.
And then I guess obviously it's a black IPA, but the hops faded a little bit, but it still retained that beautiful sort of roasty, stouty type flavors. And to me, it sort of had hop flavor, but it did lose the aroma. Yeah. So it sort of fitted perfectly into that American Stout, which is basically a hoppy stout category. And then sort of put it in and didn't think anything of it. Certainly wasn't expecting it to get a gold medal. And Flex and I are actually down in Tasmania for a mate's birthday, and went to the awards down in Hobart. And we're sort of just sitting there, and then OJ from HBA come up to us and said, "Oh, do you guys mind coming up?" I'm like, "What?" Because that's where there was another brewery who'd won something from Tasmania, so they were up. They turned all the lights on. We're like, "Oh." So it was just because if you got a gold medal, they read you out. And we're sort of like, "Oh, awesome, we've won a gold medal." And we're like, "Oh, maybe it's for the stout," because it's in the stout category. And then it comes up with the Neo-Mexicanus. Like, oh, wow.
You'd even forgot that you entered it.
I'm like, oh, I forgot all about that. And then they read it out that we'd won the trophy. So all the beers that gold medal in a category then get rejudged. And then basically, I've done it in a couple of beer awards myself. You sit around with a flight of beers, it might be 5, 10, however many have gold medaled, and you literally choose your favourite one.
Yep.
So it becomes a personal preference at that stage, not the one that suits the category best.
So it's not just style, it's on preference.
Yeah, it's on preference. So it might be 6, 8 judges, whoever's there at the time. And you just go, boom. So it's
really interesting.
Everyone's favourite over all the stouts.
It's really interesting because a lot of the judging is based on style guidelines. So you have to be quite specific.
Up until it wins a gold medal.
And then you get to the gold medal, and then it's based on the preference.
Yeah.
And I think, Maddie, just to talk about the way that you brew beer and the way that we like to do it at Revel is, we don't generally go to guideline. We go to what is the perfect balance between kind of drinkability and flavour. So nothing too offensive, nothing too off. You're going for that middle of the range, nice, well-rounded everything. But that doesn't always do well in the technicality of a BJCP guideline judging, right?
No, that's right.
But if it did get through and it golded, then when it comes down to actually drinking something that's well-balanced, that's where you possibly could get up to these trophies, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I guess a trophy at the end of the day is an absolutely fantastic beer.
Oh yeah,
because it is just
anything
at
that
the end of the
medals,
day, everyone's drinking it and not actually ticking boxes and putting it against a guideline.
Yeah.
It's how much they enjoy it in relation to what that beer actually is.
Yeah, exactly.
So
knocked it out of the park, and not just once.
Yeah, well then after that, well this was in when was it? October, I think, end of October, start of November, something like that. Whenever the Indies. Actually, the judging was
November.
End
of November.
Anyway, the beer was probably, as I said, 4 or 5 months old. And then the Queensland one rolls around in February. So by then it's another 3 or 4 months old. And I'm like, oh, it did well in the Indies, we'll throw it in again. And then sure enough, I was part of the judging, and then I got contacted by one of the organisers to see if we were coming to the awards. I'm like, oh, generally they only do that if you've won something. So we roll in the next day at the RNA Awards at the showgrounds, and we're like, oh, I wonder what this is for. And sure enough, it's for this beer again. So it's probably by this stage 8, 9 months old in a can, and happened to pick up another gold, not only a gold medal but the trophy. So
it's all down to fantastic brewing, great QA,
all
that type of stuff as well.
And it gets better with age, right?
Yeah, well,
like a few
A
things
lot of
in life.
I mean, a lot of dark beers do, don't they?
So the first batch is actually now past its best before of 9 months.
I still have some in my fridge, and it's
Yeah, well, I've
tasting
still got some as
absolutely
well,
delicious.
and I've done a side by side with this, and it's like it's still drinking well after almost a year or whenever we brewed it. So it's held up really well.
And on a canning machine that was being, warmed in, that you potentially can have a lot of other side effect issues.
Oh, particularly
from that
oxygen
process.
pickup.
Yeah.
But sometimes in a dark beer, they don't seem to get as affected by oxygen, and it can even enhance some of the flavors in some cases. So if someone can pick down that piece of science where dark malts don't oxidize.
There you go. That sounds like a bit of a challenge there.
It might actually be something you can use
for the enthusiasts out there.
in pale beers.
Maybe send us some questions.
Some
answers.
pales and IPAs that are full of hops will oxidize in a couple of weeks, depending on the oxygen level. But yeah, there's just something in the dark beers that sort of they just last.
And the collaboration, it's a two-way collaboration, isn't it, with the guys at Big Shed? And Matty, is there something in store for...
So the plan was we went down to Adelaide about, or it might have been a bit earlier than last year.
Yep.
We went down, it was actually mostly to do a bit of wine stuff because we brew a collaboration with Smidge once a year.
Don't mind a wine every now and then?
Yeah, so we got to go to the McLaren Vale and up to the Barossa and that sort of stuff. But then while we're down there, we reached out to Big Shed. Phil, who's one of our mates who owns Hellbound, put us in touch and popped in there on our way to the airport after a couple of fun days in Adelaide.
Yeah.
Caught up with Jace, one of the owners.
Legend.
Had a couple of beers and a burger. But we threw together the idea of doing a collab. And then, I don't know, it happened reasonably quickly. It was probably within 6 weeks or something.
Yeah.
We had Pete up here to brew the beer. But the plan was to always go back down there and brew another one. But at the time, obviously, with COVID and travel and all that sort of stuff,
It was challenging.
it was becoming quite hard to organise it. So it's now got to the point where we've been able to organise it. So in June, going down to Adelaide is the plan, and we're going to finally do the return brew. So I've been talking, I've now got a new head brewer, Ben, who I've been organising it with. So we'll go down, and that beer might come out in July sometime. So it'll, 18 months later, however long it's been, it'll complete the circle to do the return beer.
Yeah, and talking to the guys, the design's probably going to be a little bit different. They're going to
You're actually
shedify it,
Shedify.
as they say. You know, they've got
well,
some fantastic designs.
before you go on too far,
Wait.
I'm talking about the different beer.
Right.
Big Shed have actually rebrewed this beer, which is what you're talking about.
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, yes, that is what I'm talking about.
Yes.
Yes.
So
there's
yes,
two there, right?
yes,
Yeah.
that's right. So we're going to Adelaide.
Secrets
to
are
brew
getting
a
let
brand
out
new
here.
beer, and then Big Shed are rebrewing this beer.
Yes.
Actually, I think they just have.
They just
Yes.
have, yeah.
But they are going to shedify it, as you
They've
said.
shedified this
So
one.
we'll send them the artwork, and we'll see what they do with it.
Yep.
Do something funky.
Yeah, it'd be pretty cool.
Yeah.
Well, that's going to be brilliant. I'm excited about that.
So when it comes out, we'll do a swap, and we'll get the one they brewed up here, and vice versa, and we'll get to taste them side by side.
Yeah, so
See
the
what's coming out.
Brisbane-based punters will be able to come up and taste it. You
Yeah.
don't have to go to Adelaide for it. You'll be able to come to the tap rooms.
Yep.
Yeah, we might even get a keg up here and put it on tap here or something.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. All right, guys. Well, thank you very much for joining us for this fantastic beer. This is probably one of our most prestigious beers, I guess, from now on, winning 2 trophies for this. It's definitely one of my absolute favourites. Like I said, it hits the spot for me. I love dark beers, and a little bit of hops and everything like that in there to balance it out is just on the money for me. Coming into this type of year as well, a little bit cooler, to enjoy the darker beers, a little bit more body in them and things like that. So definitely have a look at our stockists that these will be in, and definitely do yourself a favour and go grab this beer and really, really savour it. It is an absolute cracker, one of my favourites. Well done, Matty, again. On this beer.
Well, I think it exceeded all our expectations.
All our expectations.
And it gets better with
fantastic.
age, doesn't it?
Yeah,
Like, it's one of
definitely.
those beers that can just keep giving over time.
Definitely. So buy a case and keep it for a little while, and have a 4-pack every month and see how we go.
4-pack a month.
Yeah, 4-pack a month plus
Keeps
your
the doctor
other.
away.
Yeah, that's it. So, and again, a shout out to Verg, this fantastic can design. It is quite amazing, that can design. It's really, really punchy. So Yes. Try
I'm not even going to try. And,
yeah, I know. Have a few.
enunciate that word.
I think if you have a few of these, you get better at saying
Yeah,
it.
well, maybe that's the purple
Synesthesia.
Tongue twister. So, all right, guys, thank you very much for joining us. Go grab some of this, savor it, and enjoy. And we will be back with another beer with the brewer and maybe another guest as well in the future. So, cheers, everyone.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers.